Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to continue with our Audi RS6 modeling course. Now this is where we left off from our car designing course. It is going brilliant so far. We don't want to get too overly confident, but we also want to be fairly happy with what we've been able to do so far. It's absolutely incredible the work we've been able to accomplish. Let's make sure we turn on screencast keys. I cannot keep forgetting that. And let's change a few things. We need our grid, we need the floor, we need axes X and Y. You can keep wireframe if you want to, but we're going to turn it off for now. Check on the faces. That's looking excellent. So the question is, where did we left off from here? So we need our images back and we want to continue modeling our car, predominantly continue with the rear. This is where we left off after all. And the rear of this car is very specific, very beautiful as you can see. And if I'm being completely honest, a lot of what we already have, we can actually continue with a lot of what we already have, which is a good start. Meaning these vertices also, we can continue with a lot of these vertices. We can actually highlight both of them simply by pressing Alt and Shift. And we can actually duplicate this. Press P to separate, tab out. Let's try it again. Duplicate by pressing Shift D, right click, P to separate, tab out. There's something there that's just not working. Let's try it again. Shift D to duplicate, right click, P to separate, and tab out. So it's very difficult to see, but they're actually there. I don't know why they're this difficult to see. I think I found the problem. So the problem was in the wireframe opacity. So our opacity was really low. So we've actually turned that all the way up and then we've just turned it off. So as confusing as that is, it does make somewhat sense, surprisingly. So within X-ray mode, we can actually select our new vertices. These are our new vertices. I'm still having that mirror problem. Cannot say why, but I'm still having this mirror problem. Now I can almost guarantee that if I were to redo this, I'd probably avoid having that mirror problem. But the problem is we would lose the work that we've done so far, because we've got a really great foundation and we would like to continue with this foundation. But you know what? Let's go ahead and delete those. We're actually just going to start fresh because one, I want to avoid that mirror problem. So select both vertices and one, we're going to join this. So Control J, then we can tab in, use X-ray mode, and we can delete most of these vertices that we don't need. There's a lot of vertices here that we simply don't need. And for now, turn off mirror modifier because it's just confusing us. Actually, we keep those two vertices, we merge those at center, can move those up to around that area. But a lot of these vertices we're going to dissolve. Can probably move that one up. And of course, continue using your reference images because this is where the car gets a little bit more tricky. Designing the rear end is not the easiest part because it immediately merges out. So we need to constantly use all of the tools available for us in Blender to get this right. And for one, we can start with the top. That's where we left off and that's what we can continue with. So most of these we can actually just extrude. And again, not all of them. Perhaps just the top vertices like that. And to view this from the top also. So clearly those need to be taken in a little bit to the left-hand side. So naturally the car continues to bend around that area. Looks as if we might need a loop cut on this side just to get that right. We're going to add a few more things. Let's get ourselves a circle. Let's get ourselves a circle, a mesh circle. And let's go down to the left-hand side. Let's align this to the view. And let's carry down this vertice. We really don't want too much, probably around 18. Let's move this across the right-hand side using the y-axis. Tab in, S and scale this down, G and Z to move up. So this will help us to guide when designing. This is our guidance system and mostly to help us to design the wheelbase around this area. because there's the wheelbase and then there's the bezel, and it's relatively flat on the blade, and it's relatively flat on that area. Very similar to what we did. Very similar to what we did over here, and this one we did manually, if I'm not mistaken. And some of this we might still need to improve, because you can see this area right there is a little bit wonky compared to the rest of the vehicle. If we wanted to, we can actually just go ahead and change that immediately now that we noticed, instead of leaving it for any longer. It might only worsen the embarrassment. As for these ones, this probably needs to be brought up like that and to take it out. So just a few tweaks right there. So we got this to work with. This is our guide. Let's tab in. Let's press A to select all, and we're going to move it to the right hand side around that area. Let's view this from the top view. It needs to be moved out a little bit more. Perfect. And a lot of this it's actually bended inwards. But right there, that is what we're working with. Maybe move it back just a little bit, because it actually connects to this area. Wonderful. And then we can create a second guide and scale this one down. Not too much, not too little. Wonderful. And most of these vertices, we can actually get rid of those. Let's move this one back around there. Let's move this one back around there. Most of this we will just reposition and move it up. We'll also move these ones up also. Wonderful. Then we could easily just fill and continue onwards like that. If you added a subdivision, this would really help to improve things. We'll move these ones up just around there, because they'll connect to that later. And let's just delete this one. As for these ones are moved in just a little bit. You can even see that on this image right here, around where the wheelbase is. You can see just how much right there it is slightly merged in, and we're just going to do that manually. Just going to move everything across manually. We can later subdivide this one if we choose to, but let's just view this from the top view. That looks a bit better. I think this side is supposed to be, this side is on point, but I think almost all of this is a little bit wider. If I'm not mistaken, it's a little bit wider. So we're just going to move that out just a little bit. View it from the top view to make sure we got that right. That looks around right. And this one, we'll just move that one out as well. And what this just helps to do is it just flows. It just flows really well. And later, of course, we can connect this. I'm wondering, does it have too much vertices? You know, that's an important question. Does this have too much vertices? Perhaps it does. We're just going to dissolve some of these. Just dissolve some of those. But we got to be careful which ones we dissolve. Really got to be careful. Can probably dissolve those ones. It's very difficult. I have a feeling we only need to dissolve like one more, because if we move this there, may need to move it out a little bit. Let's move that one there. Let's move this out a little bit. Let's move that one there. So it's more or less just positioning. It's more on the positioning rather than anything else. So perhaps this one needs to be moved across. And these ones, move this up a little bit. This one, move that one there a little bit. Perfect. I think that might work. For some reason, every time I'm saving my document, it takes really long to load. So that's how it's looking so far. Now keep in mind, you see how this bodywork merges out, it bulges out, but it bulges in. That will be difficult. The reason is because we're not really using shrink wrap at all. So everything is more manual. And for one, that means we're going to need a few loop cuts around these areas. Let's get those added. We can think about merging this. In fact, we can think about merging it. We might need a loop cut around there also. Because keep in mind, a lot of this bodywork, it bulges out greatly. It's over exaggerated to a great exception. So we sort of need to work with that a little bit. But it's very tricky. I'm wondering if this line is this one we're looking at right there. Or is it that one that we're looking at right there? And if that's the case, we might need to tighten up the rear right around this area. So there's that line and there's this line. Okay, very interesting. So a lot of these, we might need to carry these ones out further. A lot of this one, we're just going to drop these things down a little bit. Well, not that much. Actually, that sort of messes it up completely. Perhaps it's more around there. That still messes things up, if I'm being completely honest. Try to keep in mind like what's necessary. For one, we got to determine what's necessary. This line isn't necessary. I just noticed this line right here should not be that straight. That's interesting. I think this line should be around there. So we might just have to carry some of these down, which will ultimately be okay. But we just want to... That looks ugly. Everything looks better if it's just straight, but this is this line. It does, it's not straight. It's not straight, and that's unfortunate because, you know, it looks so good when it was. We might just have to bring some of these up a little bit so it looks a little bit like that. We'll bring some of these up a little further so they look like that. That looks a little bit better. You see, we're trying to keep this as minimal as possible, if I'm being honest. We're trying to do it so it feels natural. And you can see even this area, trying to keep it as naturally feeling as possible. Even this area, it just feels like it just slowly merges down. Feels like we can even bring this down a little bit further. But our first option was not the best one, but that's looking a little bit better. So we know for one thing, this line, it does not continue. So we can actually dissolve these vertices. And we might actually need to carry this out a little bit. Might actually need to lower it also. Like I said, it's a very tricky part of the car to get right. Because the other option for this is to probably extrude it. But I'd say, let's go ahead and join these areas. Let's press Ctrl J, join these areas, perfect. And if we wanted to, we could actually, instead of extruding or anything like that, we could actually just fill. We want to be careful that we don't overdo that. And let's subdivide that again. Okay, it's starting to look like that. Now, we'll have a loop around this area to sharpen up that line. But one thing we can do for now is just to use double G and carry those ones down. And this one, we can actually fill that area right there. Fill this area and carry this one up. And we're also going to fill that area and carry this one up. Now we got to remember around here, there's a really sharp line. We've got to keep that in mind. It's rather sharp. And this area, that's a lot more smooth than anything else. You can see right there, it's smooth. It is really, really smooth. It's really, really smooth, but also another thing is this door. I think the door should be edged out a little bit more to compensate for what we have there. And I think we can probably do that a little bit later. Let's continue with this area. As for the sharpness right there, it doesn't really continue, so we can actually just dissolve that. A lot of these vertices we can actually just dissolve. But we'll use these vertices for a little bit actually. We're going to fill that one, we're going to fill that one. And as for these areas, we're just going to take those areas in just a bit. And if you'd like, you can actually just bring the whole thing out. Bring out that side also. These vertices will carry it across the left-hand side. As for these ones, we're going to dissolve those. As for these three, we're actually just going to join those and carry that one up just a little bit. I think this should be a little bit more flat. Flatten that one also. As for this edge, we can move that one up only a little bit, not too much at all. And then we can actually just fill that area. Add a vertice on this side and join that. Because of course this area, we can close that up. Disable the image. Yeah, this area we can probably close that up. We might need another vertice around that area. It shouldn't be that sharp, but sort of have to decide if we have a better option. Probably like that. Probably bring this across. Probably need to lower that. Probably need to lower that side also. Carry that around there, and probably need to lower this also. How about this area? Yeah, carry that part up a little bit. Carry this part down just a little bit. Carry that part around. Carry that down a little bit. Just small changes makes a big difference. So how do we feel about that? Not too bad at all. Is that a shadow right there that I can see? Is that a shadow? Does look like a shadow. As for this area, we'll also bring this across. Reason why is because I want to close this out a little bit more. But we sort of have to be careful with how we do that. We might just have to carry these one across. That might be a little bit tricky. Yeah, that might be a little bit tricky because we could add a vertice around there, which is only natural. And as for these vertices, I think these needs to be closer to that side. Something along those lines. And as for this area, might just need to readjust the whole thing, kind of like that. So the gaps are really almost non-existent. Okay, that one's a little bit too far. Perhaps we can adjust it from the door itself. Oh, so that's another thing is these vertices, do we need to carry these in a little bit because we don't want any shadows? Yeah, that might be a solution. Although from this area, don't quite like how that is. So we're gonna complete that ourselves and just taking that area just a little bit. Yeah, so naturally we know these areas need to be brought out a little bit because it's a little bit too stupendous. But how about this area? Yeah, we might just need to close that out. Might just need to carry this one down a little bit. And you can see how much open that one is. But the real question is, should it be that much? I mean, it might. It may have to. Might have to carry this part up a little bit. Might have to carry it back a little bit. And I might just have to carry this within a little bit also. Tricky area, very tricky to get right. We'll carry this in. And keep in mind, a lot of this we're going to readjust later once again, but want to be careful with how we do that. Very tricky area. But like I said, a lot of these, we can actually do this now. A lot of these areas will have to merge out. Keep in mind also, the door is supposed to go all the way up there, which is ironic. So that's what I mean when I say this area genuinely needs to be brought out. And that's mostly like these vertices. Perhaps not those ones, but these ones, they need to be brought out like that. Yeah, like it's actually quite significant. Even more, even a little bit more. We could even go a bit more extreme, but we don't have to, especially right now. We could add a vertice around there. And with these ones, we could bring this out also. We don't have to, but we could. And as for this area, how we're going to fix that area is beyond my explanation. Might have to bring this vertice down there, and then we might have to just bulge this area out. And that begs a unique question. Is there a line right there? And to be honest, I don't think there is. Also, for this line, it is relatively disabotating around this area. It's like it slowly disabotates around that area. Now we got plenty of shadows. We have plenty of shadows, and we might want to readjust that, which means we could bring some of this back. Don't have to, but that is an option. I wonder with this area. I see. Let's add a line around there, and let's connect those two. We'll carry this one down, and we'll carry this out. Also, check on the bodywork. We want to make sure that this area doesn't have any sort of issues. Can probably bring that part, could probably bring some of these vertices down just to make it match a little bit better. And we could just bring this out a little bit more. Quite a lot of shadows around this area also, so let's just bring this back. And yep, for these areas we'll also bring some of these back also. Perfect. You can see that's starting to close up, so just closing these areas off. That's something we have to be careful with. If we close it off, then we want to make sure that it's in line, kind of like that, like it's actually closed. Right, this area, carry that within, carry that within, carry that one within also. So that is my point. If we're closing off these areas, we got to keep in mind that it actually needs to be closed. And that's all we're doing, is just closing them off. That's looking significantly better, although it's feeling as if it needs to be closer together. Very good. So that's what we have so far. This area looks a little bit too much. Might have to dissolve one of those. I might just have to carry this up. Maybe carry these ones down, carry these one within, carry this up, carry that within, carry this one up, carry this one out, and these ones, just close that within also. That's looking good. That's looking good. It's not perfect. Needs a little bit more work, but that's actually looking good. So I believe at this point we can probably continue with modeling our vehicle. Let's move this across. Let's move this across right there. We're going to use it to follow the blueprint a little bit. And we can view it from the rear also. But if we're doing that, we might need to hide some of these components. Wonderful. So we know this one should be more around there. Carry that one closer also. And then probably carry it down a little bit. That is our light unit. Carry this one down, so want the flow of the car to follow. Like this area of the car is very important that it flows. Let's install loop tools. Let's install extra mesh objects. These could be useful whenever modeling. So this area with loop tool, we can actually relax that area if we wanted to. You can see the difference there. This is when it's not relaxed. This is when it is relaxed. And it's mostly to just get our vertices to be more optimal. And for one, they're mostly just straighten. Let's move this one down. Let's look at this area. Let's move this one down also. Actually, with this one, try not to move that around too much. May need to bring this one back a little bit more. Okay, that'll work. So then we can simply extrude, carry it down, look at it from all angles. I wonder if it's best if we have this one around there. Then we can fill. View this from the rear once again and extrude once again. Let's also view this from the top. Mostly the side views are what's most important by the looks of it. So this is where it ends. This is where it ends. It cuts off right around there. So we need to move these ones there a little bit more. And as for this area, we'll just move that around also. Actually, I just noticed something. I wonder, with this cut off, you see it right there. Yeah, let's undo some of this. And let's temporarily just add a loop right there. It's not going to look good, but this is more of a temporary thing. And let's just fill. Yeah, rather this is more temporary. And let's add another loop right there. So basically with these ones, we can press P and separate and save that file. Also, you see how sharp this area is? We might need to add another one, or rather add one to the outside, like around there. Might actually help to sharpen up that area. And then you can basically join these vertices. We can actually dissolve that vertex right there, and we can actually add a line right there. And let's merge these. Perfect. Let's carry it closer. Perfect. That is looking good. I'm telling you, I've done this before, and it's so much easier after practicing. You know, just practicing multiple times. It gets so much easier. Like they say, practice does make perfect, with some hard work, albeit. Now, something I just noticed, there's a line right there. Right there. There's a line. And it sort of perfectly aligns with this vertice right there. But nevertheless, there is a line. So, always discovering new details. Yeah, there's a line right there. Not sure how many times I can possibly say that, but there is a line. But that line is very, very, very tricky because we're going to add a couple more loops. Going to add a couple more loops right around there. That line is particularly tricky. Yeah, that is a particularly tricky line because it's created right there. It's not coming from anywhere specific, but it's more or less created. So we're going to highlight both of these. We're going to select both of those lines. And here's what we will do. We will deselect these vertices and deselect that one also. And then, strangely, we're going to carry that one. For some reason, I cannot move this thing. It's not moving. We're going to save our file and basically restart the application to fix this problem because I'm unable to move. Or perhaps it's because of the magnifier that was on. Yep, it's because of the magnifier. Honestly, that magnifier turns on in the least expected times when I don't want it to. We're going to dip this one underneath. And as for this area, as for that area, we're going to bring this one out just a little bit. And then we can add loops around that area. And naturally that looks ugly. That's a little bit too much. So probably need to bring this one down a little bit. And we're going to bring this out actually. We're going to carry this part out just a little bit. And we're going to move this around a little bit more. I wonder if we need anything up here. Would that help? Honestly, it does a little bit because we know that area is mostly hidden within. Kind of like that. It's kind of like that, and this one is dipped beneath a little bit. It's dipped beneath a little bit. We'll just move this one up around there. And this one, we'll just carry those out just a little bit. Still got some gaps, but honestly, those gaps can be, there's other ways to fill those gaps also, which we will get into a little bit later. This one, let's just bring this down a little bit. This one, let's just bring this down a little bit also. And as for these ones, we'll just carry those ones closer together. These vertices, will carry those up a little bit just to round out this area. It helps, especially from a distance. Now, wherever there's shadows, it tells us that these areas need to be moved in a little bit more. Yeah, you can clearly see right there. It needs to be closed up a little bit more. Even these areas need to be closed up a little bit more. Close up those areas also. And we'll carry this out a little bit. Perfect. And honestly, it doesn't get easier. It unfortunately does not get easier because we're going to have to extrude this area and rotate it. My goodness. Tricky stuff. Tricky stuff. But we can add a vertex right there and carry this part out. Yeah, this is particularly tricky. This is particularly tricky stuff. But honestly, if this does not work, then hold on. If this does not work, then I'm happy to basically redesign all of this. Let's dissolve those vertices for now. I see. I wonder where this problem